Welcome back. This is the Relativity Series from LA TheaterWorks and the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, bridging science and the arts in the modern world. Here's part 2 of Secret Order by Bob Clyman, directed by Gordon Hunt.
Recording now, September 17th. In the mice that have relapsed something odd, our cells are declining in number, but no cell debris, or any trace of them left. September 22nd. As expected, cancer cells are increasing as the R cells decline, but by a strange coincidence, both events are happening at almost the same rate. September 29th. No coincidence. The rates aren't close, they're identical. Can only mean these R cells aren't dying, they're turning back into cancer cells. October 3rd. Initial attempt to keep these cells from turning back has proven unsuccessful. May need to consider destroying the renegade R cells. Will require disabling the BC12, which has been keeping the R cells alive. October 10th. Initial attempts to disable the BC12 have proven unsuccessful, as it appears to have deeply embedded itself in the renegade R cells code. It is becoming harder to ignore the real possibility.
Come in. Try to picture, okay? Every single meeting. Some of these people, I go back 20 years, first chance to talk, and God knows, but it was, hi, how's Annie? And that was it for the small talk. Everything else was your work and your paper in the journal. And where did they send the check? This whole trip, everything had to shine. Here, it's Madeira. I picked it up at the duty-free.
No, thanks.
Not to say I told you, but as soon as your paper ran in the journal this month, Stan Griffin runs the animal program at Yerke, said give him 6 weeks, he'll free up a primate lab, and if that doesn't sound premature enough, do I look younger to you? First words out of Annie's mouth, I dropped 5 years while I was gone. Oh, and listen, there may be a situation in Brussels over the next couple of months, and if that works out...
See, while you were gone...
I'm sorry, I thought I was talking. No, go ahead. I'm really not supposed to even be mentioning Brussels. I'm just so... Please, tell me everything. Start from... Oh, but first, I know you're going to get a kick out of... Sherman Fraser sits on the Nobel Selection Committee, said guess whose name in cell biology.
Speaking of premature...
Exactly right, and so I was guessing Hodgkin or Pauling would win it until they won it.
I don't even know Sherman Fraser. Why are we talking about the prize?
I thought you'd get a kick out of hearing.
No, you're always... All that matters to me is the science.
I know.
These other things, they don't...
I know. It's the science. Don't you think I'd be doing the science if I had any choice?
What do you mean, had any...
I turned 50, William. I can even tell you the moment I suddenly knew the science was gone. I went for months without a single original thought. I began having, and I don't mean headaches, I felt my brain was so starved I was starting to feed on itself. And then, man, those sweaty 3 in the morning.
What happened?
What usually happens to scientists after they can't have an original thought? I was made chairman of my department. Spent the next few years slowly dying at Yale, and then Hill Matheson called, and I figured bigger's got to be better, but it was just a better graveyard, until one day I opened the mail. And there was a paper written across the street from a pig farm in Illinois, and I had a reason to get out of bed again. Anyway, I'm sorry. I had no idea my saying the prize upset you. It's the last time you'll hear me mention a word. I just really wanted you to know that everywhere I went, not that I needed anyone to tell me, but it made me, and I'm sure it's just human nature, but I felt proud. I just felt proud of you.
Christ.
You're right. Enough said. The floor is all yours.
You just got back.
Exactly, and now you're going to tell me everything I missed.
It can wait.
It doesn't have to. I'm back. Any more problems since those 3 groups?
Just a few technical problems, nothing I can't solve.
So it was only that one batch of mice?
Isn't that what you assumed?
Yes. Is anything wrong?
Such as?
You just seem, ever since you got here...
Well, I'm not. Just tired.
Well, I'll tell you what. Give me an hour to go through my email. There's a new Thai place. This one's even
Thanks.
better.
If there was any way I could.
Maybe Sunday. At least promise you'll knock off early?
In which case, I should probably go.
So there's nothing I need to know?
Not about that.
Not about what?
Whatever we've been talking about.
That envelope, isn't it for me?
It's nothing.
Then why did you bring it?
Don't worry. The sky didn't fall just because you were gone.
Do me a favor, William. Get some sleep.
There you are. Everyone I talk to, it's the same story. He never calls, he never writes.
I've been incredibly busy.
Enough with the mice. It isn't healthy. Come to a Friday talk and tell us why you're so preoccupied.
I'm not preoccupied.
Busy, same thing.
Look, as soon as I have something to say...
Nobody goes there to say anything. We just talk. Fridays are when we all come together, talk a little science, enjoy a little nosh, and remind ourselves the enemy is cancer, not other departments. You're a nice young man, very respectful, and I know you're close with Bob. He's almost, like a father? And I commend you, but fathers are difficult, busy. They find us wanting, and then they go. So if there's ever something you'd like to discuss...
Like what?
By the way, that's a smart-looking jacket. I'll bet they don't dress like that in Duluth.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Don't apologize. Half the time, I don't know either. Could you do me a favor of taking it off? Just a little bet I made with myself. Under the nice-looking jacket, your shirt tail's still out.
So, right around 5 weeks.
A couple of days faster or slower, depending on the group, but that's when every animal's starting to relapse. This folder has everything since Tucson.
So, if the R cells are turning back into cancer cells... Okay, who am I? Cute little squirrel. Under the fur, I'm really a rat? No, more like a hired gun.
What are you doing?
Trying to think like an R cell. Hired gun, soldier of fortune. You need them, so you use them, but you're always careful. You know they can turn.
And when they do turn...
You go in, wipe them out, and replace them with new recruits, other R cells that haven't turned.
And when those new recruits start to turn...
You wipe them out, too.
So you just keep repeating. Not bad, except the BC12 won't let me. The same gene I spliced into the R cells to keep them alive, now it won't let them die. It's protecting the R cells from me.
What about another gene to disable it?
There isn't one.
P55.
How would you get into the cell?
Hide it in a virus. Let the virus slip in. Why are you looking at me like I'm crazy?
Do you know how long a chain P55 is?
Not the whole chain, just the small active sequence.
No one's ever been able to find it.
So find it. Then you'll be famous for that, too.
It might not even be small.
On BC12 it was.
Finding an active sequence can take years.
On BC12 it took you a couple of weeks.
I had Peter Wickham's paper. I didn't have to make the same
but
mistakes.
It's just an idea. Instead of telling me how stupid it is.
It's a great idea. I'm just mad we didn't talk about it sooner. We could have been working on it now. What are you doing tonight?
I did sort of promise my boyfriend.
Here's the protocol. You're going to need to start learning it.
It's the entire protocol.
Yes.
I've never seen anyone here with more than the pages they're working on.
If you're going to start running groups...
You'll let me help?
No. Alice, this was your idea. I'll be helping you. Tomorrow, I'll tell Tom to take you off any projects. When the postdocs realize I've given you the protocol...
They barely speak to me. They never ask me what I'm working on, and I don't bring it up.
Okay, then. Maybe I'll just do a few things, so tomorrow morning...
Why don't I start running the gels?
Don't you need to call your boyfriend?
Sure. About what?
Peter Whitcomb copied me on this piece of email.
It was just a misunderstanding.
You weren't taken aback by his tone?
For some reason, Peter thinks I'm obliged to send him results from every group the second I finish running
That
it.
isn't quite what he's saying.
And not just the summaries, the raw data, too. Do you know the time that it takes
You haven't published anything since the journal, and that's fine. But in the meantime, I know it's a pain in the ass, but yes, he's entitled, and yes, you're obliged.
Fine. As soon as I start running groups again. New idea. I've been busy with that.
Don't forget NIH needs those plans for the new sheep lab until they see an actual plan.
Anyone else besides Peter?
What?
Who's been asking about my results?
Yes, let's see. Everyone. Arnie Pollock, it was his decision to fast-track your paper by skipping peer review.
What do you tell them?
He's from Minnesota. They've got their own way of doing things there. Remember I mentioned Brussels a couple of months ago. While I've been gone, I made another side trip there to meet some people from Pfizer. They're close to coming in with us.
How close?
Another few months if everything goes smoothly. They're willing to front-load enough development money to bury Peter's vaccine, which is not to say we don't like Peter. We do. We're happy to hear Christmas with his sister at Cardiff went well. But mostly we hate him just like he hates us. That's why whenever we deal with Peter, we're always polite. So as soon as we're finished talking, you'll give him a call.
And say what?
Jesus, William, you're a grown-up. Make something up. I expect you to handle these things because you're my guy. Don't ever forget that. William, you're my guy. Now, if we're finished discussing Peter, I'd like to move on to that student of yours.
I've already spoken to her.
Must have had 5 messages from Omar Khatami while I was gone.
Did he tell you she apologized? And truthfully, I don't think it's fair to say she was blasting
But
her
for
music.
her to tell him...
I'm not making excuses. I know she doesn't
it's just
always
incredible. What is she, 21?
think. I'm sure being so young is a part of it.
I mean, it's incredible she's managed to live long enough to be 21. Doesn't think she nearly caused an international incident.
I don't think she realized how insulting...
She didn't realize don't be a dick is insulting?
I mean, how coming from a young woman, given their
She had
patriarchal
to insult
society...
a Saudi. Why couldn't she pick one who doesn't know enough English to realize how offensive she was? Tommy's brother's married to the Crown Prince's niece. If they stop sending us graduate students, that's $2 million a year. I want you to transfer her to another lab.
What are you talking about?
Well, it's obvious. You can't control her. You're too nice. She needs someone like Stalin.
She's my student. She moved here from Boston to work with me.
Fine. As a supervisor, you now feel she's ready to broaden...
I
her-
disagree.
I wasn't asking if you agree.
That new idea. We've been working on it
So
together.
get what's his name, that postdoc from Princeton, or it's either that or she's gone.
No, I need her.
She's a student. If Katami's gripe was with you, I'd have told him, sorry, William's my guy. You don't like it, go call your king. To take the side of a student. You find talking with her helps? Okay, take her to lunch, but I want her out of your lab.
She needs to learn the procedures. Once we're ready to start running groups,
You haven't
she'll-
given her a copy of the protocol.
How else can she learn?
William, Pfizer's biggest concern is security. Yeah, how do you think they'd react if they knew your protocol's in the hands of some 20-year-old who can't shut her mouth?
If she's going to run her own groups, then...
And if you've been listening at all, you know she never will.
I've been teaching her for weeks. She can almost run them now.
Are you having sex with this girl?
No.
That's too bad. At least it might explain what's happening to your brain. All right, all right. The last thing I want is to put more pressure on you. You want to tell me about this new idea?
No. I mean, not until there's something to tell.
Just move her for a month. As soon as Katami's had a chance to cool off.
I already know what her position will be.
I'm sorry, her position? Her only position is to smile as she's dragging her things down the hall. Because I am this close to picking up the phone and calling Ted Burke at Columbia, and believe me, with that kind of note in her file, she can forget about grad school, forget about science.
All right. I'll talk to her.
And did the topic of Dr. Katami's disgustingly overbearing attitude towards women ever come up?
Dr. Brock is serious.
How does transferring me make any sense? The only person I get along with is you. Just tell him we have too much work. Maybe he doesn't really get what we're working on. All that friend of an enemy. Exactly how did you describe it?
I don't remember exactly.
Well, he obviously didn't get it, or else he'd be saying, screw Katami, and you two get back to work.
I told him the same thing I tell anyone else.
Okay, so what do you tell them? Say another lab calls. We hear you haven't been running groups. Is there something new? What do you tell them?
Since when did how I talk become
I
such
just
a
think
problem?
if Dr. Brock isn't getting it, maybe I should give it a try.
You think he's going to meet with you?
He has to. Page 1 in the student handbook. Please feel free to bring me your problems.
No, Alice.
I don't see how it could
No.
hurt. Why not?
This has nothing to do with
What
you.
do you mean? This has
Whatever
nothing-
I
I'm
say
just
to Dr.
trying to
Brock,
help
I
you
said no.
Sorry.
Oh, what do you know about Dr. Jorgensen?
The pancreatic dysplasia guy had a stroke last year.
He's still on the adjunct list. I could assign you to him.
This the guy who lost oxygen, kept confusing the physical therapist with his wife?
The point is, he doesn't come in. He won't mind if you keep working with me, or even remember you're supposed to be working with him. And Katami won't care what you're doing as long as he doesn't see you here.
Except if I'm still working with you, he will see me here.
Not if we only work at night. Are you all right with this?
What the hell? I'm mostly up at night.
Sorry about the rush. Connie just got me on the one morning flight to Brussels. Those notebooks, they're the latest groups I asked for?
We need to talk. This is everything.
Pfizer just wants the latest stuff to see what you're working on now.
This one's the raw data. This one's all my diary notes.
Fine. I'll look them over on the plane.
Well, you need to look at them now.
I thought you said this was everything. September. Where's all the other stuff since Tucson?
Those two are October.
I see, but then nothing in November, December.
Remember I mentioned a new idea?
Now I'm in January.
So instead of running more groups...
Right, there wouldn't be as many, but this is March.
When you go through all my diary notes...
I got a plane to catch, William. Boil it down.
If I'd known you were taking the early flight...
It's a simple question. Where are the other groups?
Okay, just... These are the 10 groups I ran before Tucson. This column
I can
here...
see all that, yes.
Just give me a minute. Notice whenever new cancer cells start appearing, the R cells always decline. I just assumed they were dying, but they aren't.
This is 6 months here. Didn't you realize the longer you went...
Yes! I knew every day was another day since the journal, but it was also another day to fix the problem. And I knew I could. I just needed a little more time. Then Peter Whitcomb or Arnie Pollock would ask me to send them something. I'd say there's nothing to send. And they'd say, fine, just send us whatever you've got. So that's what I sent them. Nothing.
William.
Let me finish. I never lied or made up. These aren't excuses. Okay? And then one day you said, Pfizer, Brussels. I couldn't just let you go to Brussels, so finally there was a deadline. Now.
Listen, William. People are going to ask me, so I need to know. When is the first time you realized this was a serious problem?
17 days after Tucson. I can show you exactly when in my notes.
Jesus.
You were back from a trip. I had a manila envelope. You wanted to see it, remember?
Yes, you wouldn't let me.
All my results were in that envelope, but I couldn't show you. Not the way you were acting.
How was I acting?
Excited.
I was excited. I thought I had reason to be. Something, though, I felt like grabbing that envelope out of your hands.
I know. Why didn't you?
Why didn't I what?
Maybe you should cancel the trip.
Oh, yeah. Everyone at Pfizer's chief marketing directors from around the world is flying in for these meetings. I've been assuring them for months that everything's fine, moving ahead.
Again, I'm not making excuses, but that isn't how I remember.
Right, a few technical problems, nothing you couldn't solve.
I never actually told you I solved them, and you never asked.
I never had any reason to ask.
Didn't you? Look, I know I'm responsible. I kept
No, that's
avoiding.
the second comment you've made.
I'm sorry, but if you're going to tell me I said things were moving ahead, I was so careful to never actually tell you
Actually, it's got nothing to do with this, William. I thought it was true, and so did everyone else, because that's what I told them. So what do I tell them now? Those people are made out of money and ice.
I knew publishing was a mistake.
No, realizing you had a serious problem, then sitting on it and ducking questions for the next 6 months. Why the hell did you wait so long?
I don't know. I didn't want to upset you. What does it matter? They're all stupid reasons. Maybe I thought you didn't want to know, or I could fix it before...
No. There, see, there it is again. Maybe I didn't want to know. If you had any doubts, all you ever had to do was sit down and ask me.
When? You were never here. I'd get a call from some airport, everyone around you screaming in Spanish. You always seem to be saying, my project's so important. It's all right not to lie. You never said lie. The line seemed pretty clear, but then it stopped being so clear, and then we stopped talking about it at all.
Interesting. Now, can we focus? These diary notes. It's unfortunate, William. Not everyone is this precise. I've been on site visits. Most of the entries, there wasn't even a date.
Just so I don't get the wrong impression again, you're not asking me to alter the dates.
Jesus. William, we were this close.
What are you doing?
Calling Pfizer. They
don't. That new idea, the one... You remember Alice?
Ceriton with the mouth. You haven't told her about this, have you?
Pretty much.
Unbelievable. I thought you reassigned her.
Yes, no. I didn't. The idea was hers. Please, look at this data notebook. The biggest problem was BC-12, finding a way to disable it. No one's ever done it, and we couldn't figure out how. Now we have.
Just these 2 animals?
So far, we had to make sure it works.
How soon before you could start running groups?
A month?
You don't think you're being...
A month is conservative, no.
Exactly how does Miss Ceriton understand all of this?
All she knows is I ran into a technical problem and she's getting a chance to help. She doesn't realize she's the only person I told or that I'm having this conversation with you, and I promise she won't. So whatever happens next is up to you. The last 6 months are right in these notebooks, and I take full responsibility for them. Whatever I thought you were saying, you never actually said it. Now you know everything, so if you go to Brussels and leave anything out, then you'll be responsible too. 1 more month. I need that month. I've been living like this for so many months. I can take 1 more. You don't have to. You can make it end right now. Call the board. Say you just learned some shocking information. It's all up to you.
Connie, tell the driver I'm on my way down.
What if Pfizer insists on seeing the latest stuff?
Fuck Pfizer. We'll go to Merck.
William, do you mind if I... which way are you walking? So, the thing I was curious, what would be a good situation for you?
Good situation?
In the sense of not so much good, but acceptable.
Acceptable?
Say, in the sense of any situation that's better than the one you're in now.
Do you have something specific in mind?
William, please, even if I had any idea what you meant, that sounds like a whole different conversation from the one I'm trying to have.
Are we finished?
When we're finished, you'll be the first person I tell. That's a promise. When you look at me, what do you see? Some people see a person who's a little old, whose name is never mentioned along with the prize, and for these crimes, he was sentenced to die. So how is it Saul Roth is still Chairman Roth on the same committees and plays in the same Friday night card game with certain important men on the board, if at the same time he's already dead? It's a real conundrum. How I resolve it is those men are friends, and they, in concert with other friends, would like to also have you as a friend.
And all I'd have to do is give up a different friend?
Can he offer you protection? Only a true friend can promise you that. It's a funny thing. Sometimes the person we always thought was our enemy turns out to be our only friend. There's a lot of weather moving in. I could be a harbor.
Please, leave me alone.
Or you'll do what? Call the principal? I don't know if they taught you in Minnesota that pain doesn't hurt, but this is your life. Don't be a putz.
This is so easy for you, isn't it?
Truthfully, William, no. But we do what we have to do.
I need to go.
Do you mind if I say one thing? You look like a person who could use some fun. It's a terrible thing how no one's allowed to have fun anymore. You're too young to remember, but there was a time you could tell a joke about a Chinaman and the whole room would laugh. Now you have to run it by a committee first. Here's my card. I'm listed, but this will save you the trouble. You know the most interesting thing about Chinamen? When they smile, they're not necessarily smiling.
Look, I'm disappointed too. But there's a lot to be encouraged. It's the first group we've run, and most of our assumptions turned out to be correct. I think we're only talking about a series of small adjustments now, not a change in the model. If we try them, say, in this order...
We can't combine any?
How?
This could take 6 weeks.
About that,
I'm in trouble.
It's one group.
If you had any idea...
People will understand. First group today, new procedure.
They won't understand I never told them.
Well, not that it was today, but they know it's the first group.
I don't mean which day or what group. I never told them any of this.
The point is they know it's a new idea, and whenever you
Please be quiet! You once asked me what I told colleagues when they asked me to describe it. Remember?
Yes, you said...
I didn't describe it. To anyone.
I don't... What do you mean?
I couldn't describe what we were doing to fix the problem without admitting there was one, and I couldn't do that. I knew we were close. If I could just hold everyone off...
I don't think I'm really following
I know,
you.
but the thing is, Alice, you are. So when they called, I promised to get back, but then
I'm trying
I
very
didn't...
hard to make sense of...
It doesn't make sense, okay? I should have just admitted I'm still not sure.
Are you saying nobody knew? No one.
Except you.
Then why do I have to know? Why are you telling me?
You're the only person who might be able to understand why.
Not this. What do you expect me to do with this? They could fire you.
Not if I fix it in time.
Are you asking me to keep this
I just need a little more. Another month. I'll swear I never told you.
You didn't have to tell me, but you did. I can't pretend I don't know.
What if I transfer
Don't you realize what you've done? If you had told people there was a problem, someone else might have solved it a month ago, and we'd be 1 month closer to a cure. Did you ever think about how many people will die in that month? Why didn't you talk to me sooner? I've been right here. I would never have hurt you. You were everything.
Appreciate you coming directly to me.
I thought if I tell you and you tell the board, you know how to talk to those people. I don't want to see him get hurt by this anymore. Well, then he has to.
I'm surprised you're not angry.
I was, but I think he may have been trying to protect me from myself. If he had told me this 6 months ago, maybe the idea of holding back information to buy some time... Is he all right? He hasn't been in the last 2 days.
I asked him not to until you and I could talk.
Do you think there's a chance he could get to stay on? I really thought we were on the verge of...
Maybe you could help me clarify. After you called, I poked around a little myself, and this paperwork turned up. It looks like he transferred you to a Dr. Jorgensen?
Yes, after that misunderstanding.
Could you be more specific?
I think you were out of the country. Dr. Katami became involved.
What's that got to do with Jorgensen?
You asked Dr. Shumway to transfer me out of his lab. That's why we started working at night.
I said you should work at night?
No, that was Dr. Shumway's idea. You may have been away at the time.
And I suppose I'll have to answer for leaving Dr. Shumway to flounder so much on his own. I still don't see. Why Dr. Jorgensen? He can't remember to brush his teeth.
I never actually met with
Then
him.
why?
Is this really what we need to discuss?
We won't know until we've discussed it.
Dr. Shumway picked him because he never comes in. I know how that sounds, but he only did it to protect the work, and I'm concerned if you focus on that kind of trivial deception.
I was going to ask what your signature is doing on the transfer agreement. And on this document from Columbia, do you see? Right here.
Obviously, I went along. I just don't see... Do you think it really matters?
Well, that's something you might want to ask an attorney.
Okay, I'm not sure what we're doing right now.
You're the only other person who knew about his problem all those months.
Not that he was concealing it.
Oh, you didn't wonder why he never sent out status reports?
How would I know what he was sending?
You worked side by side at the bench with him for months.
As a student.
On your idea. Is that why? What? 21 years old and your hero devoting himself?
The only reason I'm reporting this
Please don't insult my intelligence by saying you're only after the truth. We both know you better. First words you ever said to me were a lie. You sat right there and swore we had an appointment, which my secretary, in a signed deposition...
Don't threaten me.
I haven't even started.
I was his student. He reported to you. Your name went on his papers. You ran around hawking his results.
And regrettably, as you've pointed out, that hawking kept me from being here. Meanwhile, you spent every night with him, which I personally don't believe ever led to the sort of intimacy our guidelines clearly proscribe. But others may be more skeptical, especially after Dr. Shumway's attorney is finished with you.
He has an attorney?
Miss Ceriton, you're accusing him of fraud. You'd better start thinking about getting one yourself.
I only came here I just wanted to help.
Understand, I have nothing against you. You're an extremely bright, determined young woman. I also find you an irritating, pompous know-it-all, but if memory serves, that's what everyone thought of me. I'm only trying to show you the pitfalls of your plan.
I don't have a plan.
You aren't planning to take this to someone at Columbia, maybe even the board, if I advise you to drop this?
I guess I'd have to.
Yeah, if you're really sincere about wanting to help, let me suggest how. First, I need to tell you. About a month ago, I became aware of Dr. Shumway's problem.
Well, fuck me for not having guessed.
I've only known a month. Not very long when you stand it alongside a whole career, but this is whining. Let's talk about you. That first group wasn't all we'd been hoping. But your idea on what the next steps. Dr. Shumway thought possibly 6 weeks. I think you see where this is going.
I hope not.
I honestly believe that a second group makes more sense than Columbia or the board. You'll just destroy Dr. Shumway, the R cells along with them, and you'll never know if all you would have needed was 6 more weeks. Miss Ceriton, you're 21 years old. How many people will ever have this kind of chance to alter the landscape of science and improve human life?
You don't just want me to shut up. I'm supposed to keep working with him?
Yeah, it's murky, I know. Just remember, we're all trying to cure the same disease. As long as I keep a hard, tight focus on that, the murk always seems to burn off.
And if I can't do that?
Then we go down this other road. It's your move, Miss Ceriton. If you... Connie, we're just finishing. He's here now? Tell him I'll call him as... You know what? Just send him in.
I'm sorry for just showing up like this.
Miss Ceriton and I are done talking anyway. She was about to make her decision.
I'm glad you're still here. I'd like to hear
No, I don't want to be part of any discussion.
Please? I've been going through my diary notes, and you know what I realized? They're good. Clear. Honest. I thought these are something a responsible scientist would write. Not me, but I did write them. They're mine. If I just attached them to a letter describing the problem, when it began, what I tried to fix, then emailed everything to the journal, Peter Whitcomb, the board.
William.
Not mentioning you. Then someone else might read the notes and figure out how to fix it. And all those people won't have to die because of me.
What people?
I can't fix it. Not in time. Not in time. If everyone's going to find out what I did anyway, I want them to hear it from me.
He's right. What do you have to lose?
You mean besides everything? In case you haven't noticed, we're not all living in heaven yet. Around here, the lions don't sleep with the lambs.
You need to let him decide.
No, and don't imagine he's going to because of you. Dr. Shumway just needs time to think. Tomorrow he'll forget all about this, and nobody's going to care what some annoying, loudmouth little...
I already sent the email.
Your move, Dr. Brock.
Mendel lied. Did you know that? Copernicus, too, but their ideas were right. And now those men are legends. The men who accused them, who even remembers their names? Granted, Mendel never sent an email.
Yesterday, the doorbell rang and there was a basket of fruit. From the Saudis, along with a note. Don't despair. In the great march of time, the individual means nothing. All they've got against you is Alice's word.
What do you think the board's trying to tell me when they appoint a committee to investigate and put Saul Roth in charge? No, I'm out. But there still may be a chance for you Another 2 hours were supposed to go before the committee. Now suddenly Saul wants to meet in a park. Hill Matheson has become unclean, to be allowed back into the world that needs a cleansing slaughter, something to send a shudder throughout the land, and killing some misguided cherub from Minnesota won't do it. The board needs to nail the head on the castle door, and mine's the right size, but all they can prove is I didn't go over your homework with you. It's enough to fire me, but it won't make them clean. So I think Saul wants to make a deal. You get off if I say I knew what you were doing and I approved.
He tried getting me to blame you. Said if I changed my mind, here's his card, I should give him a call.
How come you never told me?
In case I decided to call.
You think I don't know you, William? A team of wild horses you wouldn't have called. I'm going to take him up on the deal.
No. This
You
was
want to
my...
keep shouting over me, or do I get to talk? You let me handle Saul. All you need to do is to start with how sorry. In fact, if there's any way... Now forget that. If you cry. You cry.
There you are. Nice park. Very restful. Although, frankly, I'm not too big on the outdoors. Give me a room. Any room. Never rains in a room. So, do we want to take care of this now, or would we prefer to drown in a sea of lawyers?
Now is fine. William?
About 7 months ago, I ran into a serious problem with my research. It soon became clear just how serious, but I concealed that until a week ago. I'm ready to tell the committee everything at 2. For what it's worth. I'm sorry.
Good for you, William. Who needs a longer conversation?
I gather you've already suggested to William how he might show remorse by describing any involvement I might have.
Naturally, the conversation to which you're referring, I have only the barest recollection, but perhaps I was thinking the time for remorse was then.
Come on, Saul, you've got kids his age. He's a good kid. Look at him.
The time to look at him was weeks ago. Today, all I want to know is, did he violate the sacred code of science by
Can
concealing...
we cut this shit right now, Saul? I know he's dealing from a weak hand, so if you'll agree to show him compassion, I am willing to tell the committee at 2...
Bob, if you want to write a note on William's behalf, that's fine, but 2 o'clock's just for him.
Am I not being clear? I'm ready to give them my statement.
You want to write how he squeezes milk for orphans out of his tit? The committee will read your note, but nobody's asked you for a statement.
And why do you want me here?
As a witness, so William can't renege later on what he just said.
I just assumed as the senior person...
We've reviewed all the evidence. The only possible conclusion is William acted alone.
So as far as what the girl...
She claims she knew, but nobody found her credible. Seems to be a problem there with older men. Bob, you and I have had our differences, but the board is convinced you're the best man to steer us through this difficult time.
I just assumed. Huh.
Why? What kind of a statement? You're not suggesting, because if that girl was telling... It might change things for William completely, given how young. We might just be looking at some sort of leave, a little counseling. Is that what happened, Bob? Tell me you knew what William was doing, and I'm sure the committee will be moved to reach out to him. Of course, if you didn't know, the only place William will ever get to do science again is in his garage. This is awkward, isn't it? So... what should I say when I get back?
Tell them I blame myself for what happened. My job was to be there for him, and I failed.
As a department chief, I know exactly the feeling, and I commend you for bringing it up, but that wasn't exactly my question.
I was away so much of the time. That's not an excuse. I mean, there is no excuse.
I feel we're still talking around it. Did you know he was hiding results?
Hill Matheson was becoming a fat, overbred country club when I got here. I brought it back to what it once was. Look at the postdocs that went to Yale this year. And who do you see? The ones who couldn't make the final cut here. So if you want to know if I can sleep at night, the answer is yes.
Good, finally, an answer. Only what was the question? I'm pretty sure it wasn't my question. The board found out William was hiding results a week ago. What about you?
Why are you doing this, Saul?
He's waiting. You like to play God. This is your chance. Tell William if he's been written into the book of life.
There has to be some other way.
Not at me. Look at William. He wants you to look at him while you speak. When was the first time you knew?
I got an email from Dr. Shumway. There was an attachment. His diary notes.
So, a week ago, just like the rest of us, before that, you had no suspicion?
No.
William, is there anything you'd like to add?
No.
Take whatever time, just to be sure. There's nothing else you can recollect.
No.
Nothing else you might say between now and 2?
Dr. Brock didn't know. I'm responsible. That's my statement. I keep forgetting to return your card. Here. If the committee asks, I'll swear I acted alone.
Doesn't really matter, does it? Even if you wanted to say it was Bob, the committee would have seen it as, what, a desperate man as he teeters on a ledge. Everyone knows how it is with a desperate man, right, Bob? When he starts to fall, he just grabs at whatever he can. The board assumes, Dr. Shumway, tomorrow at noon will be enough time to clear out your things.
You didn't need a witness. Did you? Nothing either of us said would have mattered. The board already made up its mind. I stay, he has to go. This was just to humiliate me.
William, whether or not you believe, this was never out of anything personal. You did the right thing. Both of you. Maybe in time, you'll see.
Did you know I was the youngest postdoc at Princeton? When Adolf Krebs picked me out of everyone, took me under his wing, had me out to his place at the shore. I played cards with him and his wife. She had a room with his son, Otto. Krebs was a family man, but I could never do both. I lost a marriage, 2 grown sons who despise me. My whole life has been science. 37 years, William. It would have been as though I had never lived at all.
Everything I did. I thought we agreed that our cells were the most important, no, the only thing. So no matter what it took, you didn't have to come out and say it. You wanted it too. Did I just imagine that? I thought we did it together. Was it always just me?
And if I say you didn't just imagine it, what will that?
No. It won't help if it isn't true. I don't understand the past 6 months any more right now than when I was living them. I need to understand what happened. All I'm asking is a place to start. I can use whatever you tell me, as long as it's true. If the truth is, you had no idea and I imagined it all, at least it's a place to start.
At that time, I asked you to give me the envelope and you wouldn't. I felt like grabbing. Of course I didn't. No one just grabs. But when you took it with you, I think when you took it with you, I felt relieved.
Thank you.
And that's as close as I know how to get to it. I can't give you any.
I know. Yes. I can work with that.
No, I used to love this pond. When my kids were young, we'd drive down from New Haven on a Sunday, buy a loaf of bread. Best times we ever had. We're feeding those ducks. Then the animal rights crowd decided the ducks were chasing the bread to the bottom and getting strangled in the weeds. Seems no matter what you try to do, it's wrong.
So, ladies and gentlemen of the press, Concerning Dr. Shumway, the evidence is clear that we're dealing with a limited man who tried to lie his way into greatness. Rest assured that from this day forth he will walk through the corridors of science as a pariah. Concerning Dr. Brock, we find no hint of impropriety. He did nothing more than allow a younger, less principled colleague to play upon the goodness of his heart. Our sympathies go out to him and his family. That is our statement.
I've asked NIH to investigate your findings.
You'll never meet a nicer group of people, but they're lazy. So if you want to grab their attention, you better have proof.
I told them everything Dr. Brock said when I met with him.
And they said?
Try us again if you have any proof.
As my Uncle Milt used to say...
Save it. Then I called a reporter at the Times. I said, look, every person who reads your paper has cancer, or it's killing someone they love. And if they thought fraud, then a cover-up, the only problem is I don't really have any proof. And she said... that's something we can talk about more over lunch. So tomorrow at 1, we're having lunch.
Miss Ceriton, when you look at me, what do you see?
A jaded?
You want to call me a name? You're probably right, but on two things, my family and science don't ever question me about ethical. This situation goes way beyond what a jerk everyone in the world is but you. Bob Brock's name is on over 500 papers that have come out of his labs. Now, suppose we catch him at fraud. Is this the first time he's done it? How many of those papers aren't worth the paper they're printed on? What about the thousands more that are based upon his? Just how real are any of the things we think we know? Once you start asking these questions, there's nowhere to turn for comfort. So forgive the board for deciding it's better not to start.
But it's okay to make Dr. Shumway a pariah? That isn't fair.
My grandson talks about fair, and he's 5. Content yourself as I do. Bob Brock will be gone by the fall. This way the noise will die down. Better for him. Better for us. Better for science.
Dr. Shumway came up with a brilliant new way to think about cancer, and you told everyone it sucks. How is that better for science? I don't know what else to do except meet this woman for lunch.
We're still talking, please. So, what I'm thinking, nobody wants to go anywhere near those R cells, but if a student wanted, as a kind of intellectual exercise...
Is this what I think?
You are, I assume, intending to go to graduate school? Do you expect a great many letters of recommendation, or have you pinned all your hopes on Dr. Katami? What if you continued at Columbia? A student's application can sometimes be expedited. You could continue to pop over here.
Yes, it is what I thought, a bribe.
It's an offer. It's only a bribe if you don't deserve it. To be truthful, I'm not convinced the whole idea of R cells will ever amount to much. But then I'm an old man. It's not the science I know. Still, I could appreciate the beauty of an intricate, rigorous protocol like this. Reading his notes, I could also tell the person with the truest feel for the bench wasn't Dr. Shumway, it was you.
What makes you think I'd be willing to stay here?
You're 21 years old. I'm offering you space, equipment, animals, and no interference. This may be the only chance you'll ever have to work on the R cells again, and you don't even have to say thanks.
You don't understand.
Perhaps I do. And if this love, may I call it that? If somehow you could get people to see it wasn't his fault alone, would that get him into heaven? Would it give him back his seat at the bench so you could work together again?
What sort of funding would there be?
Certain monies can be made available. As far as specifically, should I inquire? This reporter, you said tomorrow at 1? Why don't I call the lawyers? We can do signatures at 10.
How do I know once the noise dies down you won't find a way to get rid of me too?
How do I know there's really a reporter? In 33 years at Hill Matheson, I've never gone back on a handshake.
It doesn't strike you as wrong. I get to work on the R cells after I turned him in.
You're also the only one who can save them. It's a real conundrum. As my Uncle Milt used to say, only she who causes the wound can heal it.
How?
By proving you're as smart as you think. And when Sweden calls to give you the prize, Dedicate it to him. That's if you really think you're that smart. Otherwise, turn down my offer and have a nice lunch. Tomorrow at 10?
This is Secret Order by Bob Clyman, directed by Gordon Hunt. Starring Angela Goethals as Alice Ceriton, Will McCormack as William Shumway, Richard Schiff as Robert Brock, and George Segal as Saul Roth. Sound effects artist Teresa Arison. Stage manager Young Ji. Music by Andrew Dorset. Music supervisor Scott Willis. Associate producers Jennifer Brooks and Brendan Fox. Recording, editing, and mixing engineer Mark Holden. And next time on the Relativity Series, a very unusual and true story. In the depths of a salt mine in World War II, a German prisoner creates the forerunner of the handheld calculator.
Take your machine and hide it. Give me those scissors.
Bruno, what are you doing?
You bury that machine in the clay.
Stop. What are you doing?
What do you think?
I don't know.
If he gives them the solution, they'll kill you.
Not a good enough reason.
The whole factory.
The factory will go on.
60 men.
The factory will go on. They need it. They need it. Bruno, what do you think you're doing?
Kogan gave me orders. Now move away.
Intelligent Slave by Kenneth Lynn, based on the real-life story of inventor Kurt Herstark. Next time on the Relativity Series. Please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. I'm Ron Lipkin, senior radio producer. The Relativity Series is brought to you by LA Theater Works, Susan Lowenberg, producing director, and the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, bridging science and the arts in the modern world.